Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Discerning What is True. Today is October 29th, 2024. What I'm going to be talking to you about, and let me just do something a little bit different here as I go back to full screen, make it easier for me to see. So I wanted to talk about something that most people are just not aware of. The churches, the whole world actually believes that somehow the Bible is history, somehow is telling truth, telling something true for approximately 4,000 to 6,000 years. Okay, and we're supposed to believe that it is actually history, but is it history? Is it? We know for sure that no historian, except Eusebius, which did something in Rome and said a very short 2 sentences was saying something about Jesus. But Jesus never came to this planet, folks. Wrap that around your head. Everyone believes that Jesus came here, but there is no proof he came here. If you throw the Bible out, that is, looking at it and basically saying to yourself, well, where's the proof of this? Okay. And you have to understand this is very clear when you understand simply is that the Bible doesn't have footnotes. It doesn't have bibliography. It has no proof of what it's saying. Okay. What I mean by that simply is, where's the proof? Okay. Where is the backup? When I write a paper in college, I had to give proof to support my case and what I believed and what I didn't. You see, when I was writing papers, I had to get a bibliography. I had to get notes, such and such. But in reality, the Bible has nothing to do with history. It has nothing at all to do with history. So none of these people that we were talking about, Andrew, Peter, John, we're talking about Bartholomew, all these 12 disciples are not anything to do with disciples. Is these writers who are writing these books are in reality sharing deep things, but no one catches on. For example, the 4 elements, water, fire, air, and earth. And we have illustrations that Moses, who is Moses? Was there really a real Moses? No, there never was a real Moses, folks. Okay. All these writers, the Jewish writers that wrote these things, wrote stories to reveal something hidden to mankind. And what they got from it was a lot of it from pagans. Pagans, which the Christians poo-poo these guys and saying they're nothing but dumb people. When in reality, the pagans had all the myths. This is what people are not understanding what's going on here. They're being told something that, they're not credible, such and such. And we know for what we think we know is that there is a bitter fight that's going on between certain groups before, or, this is, you got to understand simply, Jesus never was around, folks. You got to wrap that around your head. You got to. If you're going to continue to believe this literalization or history, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not. Jesus didn't die on a cross, folks. And all these churches elaborate, they built such and such. And so, well, that must be the reason why Jesus was such and such. It is enormously complex when you come to the point simply is that the churches do reveal symbols, but most people don't understand those symbols. And Phil Langdon shared a couple with me. A lot of them have to do with the cross. And the cross has what I would call a vertical line and a vertical stick, you want to call it, and a horizontal line also. The horizontal line is basically dealing with what we call your life here on this planet, which is short-lived. You'll notice that it's actually shorter than the vertical line. The vertical line itself is representing what you should be doing here. You should be learning things, studying things, and finding out deeper things what's going on. Meaning simply is it's about ascension. And the whole idea of this simply is that, okay, let's go back with Jesus dying on the cross, supposedly, which he did not. These are, again, stories. It's impossible when you think about it. Think about it. Oh, he rose again from the dead. Well, if he rose again from the dead, why aren't there witnesses even back then? Why are there not witnesses? Oh, well, they're in the Bible. But wait a minute. Hold on a second. Whoa. Where's the proof in the Bible? Where are the eyewitnesses? Why is there any history? Oh, why didn't Eusebius talk about Jesus, quote unquote, rising from the dead? Because he wasn't there. Because it never happened. This is the biggest psyop, if I would call it that, of all time. It's the biggest psyop, psychological warfare, fooling people, that is, the church has, in what we call simply believing that someone rose from the dead and he conquered sin. First of all, you got to ask yourself, why would God send his own son here? And then you have to also understand that God is, quote unquote, timeless. So why would he even enter the 3D world? What would it be the issue of God even coming here and, quote unquote, sending his son? That makes no sense, folks. Unless it's a myth that shows something else deeper. And the sad part simply is that people believe this. And we have enormous amounts of churches in the West. And yet, no one has found the needle in the haystack. No one has found really the truth of what this is all about. Mankind has been in darkness for over 19 to 2,000 years, not knowing what's going on. I mean, a darkness. Oh, we have the Bible, but the Bible is not sharing things literally or historical. This, again, I've said this earlier before, it's a great stumbling block, but it's also a great psychological tool that the church used, because the church and somehow their leaders at first knew this, but they chose to cleverly cover it up. Augustine talks about it. He shares that. They're not worthy of knowing the truth. Well, who are you, Augustine? How dare you keep the truth from the people? But that's what he chose to do, you see. And Augustine, people don't know this, is that Augustine was involved in many things. He created these, quote unquote, theologies that have gotten people all in a tangled mess. And he also said that when those that didn't go along with what the church was doing, they need to be killed. And they were killed, you see. And then, quote unquote, why hasn't Jesus come back? And people say, well, they're mocking him, such and such. Well, why hasn't Jesus come back? Well, he was supposed to come back a long time ago. But we have preachers that say, even though the Bible says don't ever tell people when Jesus is coming back, but yet they do it anyway. This has been done in the 1800s, the 1900s, some recently as basically the 1990s here in the United States. Some great preacher called, Jesus is coming soon. He's coming back. Really? If he didn't come back long ago with all this quote unquote persecution that took place in the churches, what happened? He's not going to come now because it wasn't meant to be literal. And so you have to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, don't you? You have to work it out. You got to figure it out. That's what Paul is talking to. He's saying, you must work this out. You must figure it out, what this is all about. Why is this all this stuff we hear in the churches? And the whole idea of Israelites, as they were called themselves. But Israel was never a kingdom, folks. Never was a kingdom. There never was a temple. They're still looking for it. They say they destroyed it. Who knows? Where's the quote-unquote Noah's Ark? Where's it at? Have they found that yet? Oh, it's on a mountain somewhere, someone says. Oh, really? Really? All this is basically bullshit. But if you look at it deeper here, it's not meant for those who are quote unquote, how would I say it? For the youngsters, the immature. They'll never figure it out because they are on sinking sand, you see. And so when we go and think about this in a deeper way, why would God even enter this place, this quote unquote hellhole? Why would Jesus and God come here? What would the purpose of that be? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Why would God come here? You see, we have this whole idea also, I pointed out today, and I've pointed out before, the whole idea of astrology. And the idea is people are always looking outside themselves, always looking outside. This is the whole idea. Even a man himself is looking outside of himself, always looking outside, not really actually finding out who he is and where he came from. Every bit of his time is made to, quote unquote, to research what's going on outside of himself. And we know simply is that is our bodies. We have to feed our bodies. We must have shelter. We must have a way of actually, quote unquote, having a way to provide for ourselves just to live each day. Now, our spirits don't need any food in that regard, but our bodies do. And that's the great tragedy. That's the great battle that takes place with you when you have to go to work and work every day and to put money on the, be able to buy food and do these type of things. Or a long time ago, it used to be what you grew in your farm, but they were still dependent because if they didn't have any rain at a certain time and didn't have the sunshine and the seeds didn't germinate, they were going to be in trouble themselves also. And I think that people just do not understand. And people grab a hold of anything. They're not willing to even take the chance. They're basically, well, that can't be true. That can't happen. And what I'm talking about simply is a deeper part here. Your idea of simply coming to Jesus within yourself. Now, Phil Langdon's done it. He shares that story with people. And I have been following Phil Langdon for roughly a year and a half, almost, not quite a year and a half. Started talking to him probably July or August last year. Immensely gifted person and offers these books for free for people. And very few people show any interest because, see, people have the idea that if you give money to someone, you buy something, you're going to get something. You ever notice that? If you offer something for free, it's one of the worst ways of advertisement. Think about it. If you think about people who, quote unquote, offer something for free, people say, well, there's nothing to it. There must not be anything to it because it's for free. Can't be anything. It must be junk. Well, sometimes advice is good for you. Sometimes wisdom is good for you too, folks. And so, so what's happening now when you think about it, all these wars, what's taking place in the Middle East has nothing to do with the Jews. The Jews are the chosen ones. The Jews are the ones who have ascended. So who are the people who are, quote unquote, claiming they're Jews? You see, claiming themselves to be someone, the people of God or God's chosen people. But how can they be chosen if they've never, quote unquote, ascended? Huh? You see, this is the greatest cover up, the greatest, I don't know, psychological warfare. No, I would say this is great psychological, keeping people in darkness. And people do not understand. And so those of us are trying to share these things, which we have the opportunity now worldwide to share this type of thing to others. and very few people are really interested. And that's we expected that. I mean, that's just the truth. Very few people are interested in this. And the other thing simply is that it's right now we're seeing a great shift in happening worldwide, in many ways, and it's causing all kinds of issues, like I said. And let's go back to the issue of, um, with the country of Israel. If this was God's chosen people, and this is what I'm just trying to say this, folks. This is there's so much bullshit. And I was caught up in this. I was caught up in this. And there's so many conspiracies about the Jews, you see. And this is another thing, see, because people think they take the Bible literally, and they say, well, this is what those type of people are. I don't know what they're like, but they're not God's chosen people, are they? They can't be. Only a chosen person is one who is ascended in this lifetime here. And it's very clear there'll only be a few. It says very clearly in the New Testament, there's not going to be anybody on the narrow path. You see, people are the psychological makeup of people is that they're not willing to be alone. This is a struggle for most people. Most people cannot handle being alone by themselves. They can't handle it. They have to marry someone, they have to have friendships in some ways in order to make it, so to speak. Because being alone is on that narrow path. Being alone is searching and looking at scriptures and saying, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with history. This has nothing to do with the literal perspective. Do you see how, if you think about it, folks, and you've been brainwashed by the churches. And let me make it very clear. Those that teach here and pastors, they don't know. They don't know. They don't know anything. They don't even know they're themselves. They're not saved. They're not ascended. They think they are. They think that simply it's because they go in front of somewhere and say, I want to be a Christian, such and such. What's that all? Folks, that's not doing any work. That's not pursuing the truth. That's just saying, please have mercy on me, God. Save me. Save me from, what? Hell? Yeah, they tell you that a lot of times. Well, nobody's going to go to hell. We're already here in hell. This is hell here, you see. And so I don't want to go too long. I just want, but the point, a lot of points I want to say is that how can what we hear today, how can the people who are supposedly in Israel today, how can that be God's chosen people? It can't be. No way. Do you understand? The mysteries tools, the great work, that was in evidence before probably approximately 2,000 years ago. There were places that people could go that someone who had the truth, and they would spend years upon years teaching their students to eventually they would come to ascension long ago. We know that simply is that the Cambodians, a certain group that lived in the northern part of Cambodia, actually set up a place to make it available for those who were ready to ascend. Obviously, the ley lines come into that area. Most people, when they look in that area, there are many ley lines that come right in that area. Those people who were there knew that. That's what they set that place up for. And so that's why Phil, when he went there, had no idea, and he is basically had his moment of ascension there. It's a two-part series, two-part deal, you see. And most people don't know that neither, you see. Most people have the first, they experience God, but they never ask, why did God choose me? Why did this happen to me? Who am I? Am I worthy? No, I'm not worthy. The attitude, but most don't. and they think that's all to it. And unfortunately, they didn't get the whole complete story. They just got part of it. And yet they think they have, and they've been fooled themselves also. So anyway, I don't want to talk too long. Like I said, it's 20 minutes, so I don't want to keep anybody up. But I didn't want to go long tonight. And this is a great stumbling block. This is the enormous stumbling block. And so our country and other countries fight for Israel, and others against such and such group, such and such. And you think to yourself, okay, all right. But when you really realize it, they're fighting wars over nothing. Nothing. They're killing one another for nothing. Because most of these people, the Muslims have their own particular perspective. The Jews have theirs, and so the Christians, such and such. And the Jews and Christians tend to be more closely allied. And they all the people in Israel believe that simply is the Bible is true, such and such. They may look at it a little bit different because they read the Hebrew and such and such. They would not probably most of them would not participate in what we call the Greek part, but some of them do. But again, our country and other countries are all getting ready to fight wars and already starting wars already over nonsense because of a literal framework of the Bible. When none of this was actually ever true. God help us. All right. Take care. Have a good evening. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.